that he can hyper carry on, we should be fine.
Well, let's get this out of the way. Team Freedom has never beaten Team 8 yet. In fact, Team Freedom has won just one game versus Team 8. And you can honestly say, if you go back and watch that game, it was a failed core throw for Team 8. That they ran in, they were rushed, they were panicked on Sky Temple, and that was the last time they faced off. So Team Freedom has a huge task in front of them. We know that things and adjustments are going to have to be made now for Team Freedom to go forward. Cawthon, what are you hoping to see from Team Freedom as changes now going up against Team 8?
They need to make a statement, their first opportunity to play in any style other than what they've shown so far in the playoffs. You know, from what we saw in Glorong's interview, they are well aware of what Freedom does well. And they're going to do their best to make them play in a way that's at least different from that in order to see how strong they are in other aspects of their play. It's a 5-game series. They want to get that information out early. I would expect a Nazeebo ban really right off the bat just so they can see how well Freedom plays in a standard matchup.
Yeah, that seems like a good first testing the water step for Team 8 to take. It sounds like that, although Justin did also mention making sure that Nasmus can't pop off, and sometimes we do see Dansky playing Nazeebo. He was playing it yesterday. So we'll have to see what the focus is for Team 8. Let's kick things off with the Battleground pool. Team Freedom gets the first Battleground choice. They're taking us to Towers of Doom. Again, they have banned Battlefield of Eternity with a Warhead Junction ban from Team 8. What do you think of these picks and bans, Dread?
You know, the Battlefield of Eternity coming out from Team Freedom does make a bit of sense. The Towers of Doom pick for Freedom makes a lot of sense. The only thing that kind of seems a little bit weird, and it's not even that strange, is teammates ban over to the Warhead, and it's more of just a removal of, that's a statement of like, we think we're the better team, we just want to remove what we consider more of a more annoying map. So confidence from teammate and comfort everywhere else.
Yeah, earlier on too, Team Freedom picked a couple of times Warhead Junction, just here and there. So even just making sure that there's no sort of pocket strategy that can surprise Team 8 heading into future games. As we get this draft underway, Cawthon, any playmakers for you specifically standing out for Team 8 if they're going to be able to make it to the mid-season brawl?
Glorong is always an obvious playmaker on any team he's on, but one person who I think is a little underrated is Justin. I feel that he's been secretly like a top 2 tank in NA for, I'd say, a good year now, not even a recent thing. The thing is, anytime we lost to a team that Justin was on previously, even when they were weak teams, it was always Justin making those huge plays in the late game with like 4-man moshes with bolts over the wall. Every time a team pops off prior to being on this team, it was always Justin carrying. And now that he's got a great supporting staff around him, we've really seen him step up and be a dominant threat.
Justin's Anubarak, specifically in Part 2, too, has just been phenomenal. He has had it banned and taken away from him so many times. Although versus No Tomorrow, they had to take it away since they were trying to focus on air host slightly in those drafts. But his Anubarak KDA is 11.27. That's quite high, and he only averages 1 death with him, so knows his limits on that hero.
Justin does play a lot of very survivable tanks, so he can press up aggressively, get vision, and bully the other team. So right off the bat, teammate decides not to ban the Nazeebo. From what they said, they obviously have some sort of plan to deal with Nazeebo, knowing that Freedom is likely to pick him if teammate doesn't first pick him himself. So let's see what teammate does here in response to the likely Nazeebo that comes out later in the draft.
The Greymane was a huge focus that I was going to look towards in this draft, just because I do think teammates' biggest weakness in the draft is if you can remove the question mark heroes, especially the ones around Glorong, and it all starts with the Greymane. If you can rid of that, focus more emphasis on that, I do think that we could see Freedom weaken at least the draft aspect of Team 8, just whether or not that is enough to overcome, you know, this huge team. I don't really know, and I feel like it's going to evolve into this kind of battle between, again, the Nazeebo that we know is going to be a topic, and then the Greymane, you know, looking towards games 3 and 4.
And when you are referring to question mark heroes, you're specifically talking about heroes who can be played by multiple members that don't force them into a certain draft hole or problem later on.
Freedom evaluating now if they think they can get away with a Nazeebo later in the draft or want to secure it here. I mean, they obviously have to be aware that teammate choosing to give him up, they've got a counter plan ready for Nazeebo as well. So opting to secure a more standard style of play first.
Yeah, you know, Freedom right now is kind of testing how far can they go before Nazeebo either gets paid attention to by teammate or is going to be banned out. But they do pick themselves up a Genji and an Abathur, a little global play here for Freedom.
Yeah, they did say that they respect the macro play of teammate. They want to make sure that they can keep up with that. So having Abathur on Towers of Doom, it is a favorite for NA, seeing it a lot more and more, and especially on Towers of Doom throughout Part 2.
Yep. Look for maybe some pseudo-global pressure to counter this. Maybe a Medivh, a Leoric here. Some sort of wave clear for the early game, and then some sort of pseudo-global pressure. They don't necessarily need a full global like Falstad, but they may look into a Medivh to kind of... Okay, they go for the full global with the Haka.
It's going to be a comfort pick there for them. Everything here is going to be standard. Freedom is the only one who's made any major adjustments with that high Genji priority. So what do they do on this ban? They've got focus on a main tank to target on Justing. Would that be what you do if you're in Freedom's position, or do you focus more onto the back line?
Justing is comfortable on a lot of heroes that are still up. So you can't be surprised to see him playing like even a Diablo, a Varian, a Leoric. I'm not sure that a ban targeted at him would really do too much here. There might be some specific tanky backliners that Freedom would want to get rid of here so that their double Genji can disrupt or pick off a weak backliner instead. Greymaine's already banning out the Varian. Okay, Greymaine's already fairly tanky, and so I thought they might want to get rid of something like a Tychus so that they can dive the backline. It'll be interesting to see which range teammate ends up picking up, knowing that 2 Genjis are probably going to be coming for that range.
Yeah, and now with the Uther ban as well, Tyrael is something we have to at least consider for Freedom with their Abathur Genji. It's a really good synergistic hero and can allow Genji to go multiple routes. They go with a Karzim and a Muradin, though, hiding that last pick, allowing to flex with it. Freedom is making a lot of, you know, different approach to their draft overall, and it makes me excited. I'm hopeful, but I'm also really timid to be like, oh, I'm so backing this.
Well, it's understandable because the last time, yesterday, when we saw a team so drastically change up their drafts, it was B-Step. And it's one thing to know the right drafts that you should be getting, but another to make sure that you've had the time to execute such a drastic change in drafting. So we'll have to see if Freedom can pull this off, but we've seen hints of these things. We've seen a hint of a Freedom Genji before. We saw some Karazim yesterday from Collusion, and we've been seeing it more and more. So there are still hints that this is the way that they have been heading, even though they were trying their best to hide their strategies.
Teammate may not pick another weak backliner here. They may pick just really tanky here. Basically, construct a comp that's hard to kill with some combination of a second tank, another melee, or a Medivh.
They might Medivh, yeah.
Zarya instead. That also fits to that.
I originally thought they were going to do more of like that Varian Medivh style play that we've seen them do in the past, but once the Varian was banned out, obviously they changed the direction. They want that Tyrael and Zarya. A lot of cross-supporting, a lot of high health pools here for Team Freedom, but they will... Oh man, they've even got a global to match the Abathur here. Things are not looking good for this team fight, one global strategy that Freedom's made up just based on the Warriors existing on the side of Team 8.
I like the pick from Zarya. It not only eliminates another squishy back target, it makes it hard for them to pick off anybody with the extra shields there, but it also gives them potential push power against the Abathur, and then if the Nazeebo comes here like it does, they're going to be extremely weak to hard push from Zarya. It was actually a really smart pickup in spot 5 there for teammate.
I was really hoping to see Freedom not pick up the Nazeebo there at the very end, just because it's apparent that, you know, teammate, that interview that you guys heard, that clip coming out from them, that was before Freedom even played. Like, they expected the Nazeebo before we had 7 games of Nazeebo. The fact that this is let through the draft, it only makes it that much more terrifying, knowing that they had it before they even started busting out that consistently.
Or does it show that they watched 7 games of Nazeebo play from Team Freedom and thought, we don't even need to ban it. We know where we can beat it.
I think for the teams that don't force advantages, that's going to work out, right? This is exactly the same problem I was posturing to Team Freedom in my questions to them yesterday. Is it's worked today, but against a team who's actually going to force that advantage, do you get that late game 20 the same way you would? You know, and I guess I projected that today is when that stops. And so now it makes me very hard to back this still rigid Nazeebo play from them.
What do you think, Cawthon, of the drafts? Do you think Teammate has done enough to make sure to stop Team Freedom from this same type of play?
I think they have. I think it's likely that Freedom manages to get to 20 anyway just because it's this map.
Yeah.
However, because it's its map, if you're so far behind in tower shots at that point, even getting a 20 Nazebo isn't going to turn that around. And I think that Teammate will take a dominant early mid-game lead with the pressure they have from Dahaka and Zarya.
Yeah, even Teammate have a lot of ways of being able to safely delay any sort of tribute pickup. Not necessarily that they'll want to, though. It depends if they've got their Dahaka in place to soak, if they've been able to push back the split soaking that Team Freedom has opportunities with Abathur, too. But the Genji play, I'm excited to see more Genji play now.
I'm stoked. It's just into the high health pools, you know, that we see on the other side, and a Tyrael on top of it. It's just, you know, the one major selling point for a moment was the double Genji onto a squishy, but then Tyrael's there to be able to save it, a solid supporting, and a Twilight Dream. It's like, well, at least they have the global. Dahaka matches the Abathur, so suddenly I'm grasping for an advantage compositionally that Teammate has, and other than just the shock and awe value of Genji and the burst and how fast that can come out, I don't see much.
What do you think, Cawthon, what Team Freedom will need to do if they want to win this game?
I think they need to get some picks onto the solo laners early with the mobility of the Genji and the Abathur hat. I don't think they're going to be able to contest the Zarya. Whatever lane she chooses to go to as 3, they're going to almost need to bring literally their entire team there to stop it. And so they may look to just sacrifice wherever Zarya is going, take that as a loss, and try to gain their advantage by ganking somewhere else on the other side of the map.
Great thoughts. We'll see you after the game, Cawthon. We're ready for game 1 between Team Freedom and Team 8. See you there.
And here in the blue is going to be Team 8. We have Buds on that Malfurion. We're going to have Justin playing the Tyrael. High praise coming out from Cawthon there, a huge playmaker. Yoda's going to be on the Zarya. We've got Glarung, as always, on Greymane. And Prismaticism's the Dahaka.
Their opponents making a miracle run yesterday, who were in 6th place for the North American standings. Team Freedom with Collusion playing Karazim. Zugrug playing Muradin. Insomnia playing the Genji. Playing the Nazebo once again is Dansky. And finally Nasmus playing Abathur.
So into, you know, the Abathur comp that Freedom picked and the Yoda Teammate Zarya draft here. It's going to be how much effectiveness we can see in the early game out of that siege, because Abathur has such a bad early game, and turns out, you know, Zarya is one of the best tri-laners in the game.
When she gets her shields down, she can soak up a lot of shots, both she and her ally who gets the shield, as long as the coordination is there. And let's be honest, Team 8 has the coordination as a team.
They very much do, you know, and they're going to see this cycling out through mid. An attempt of a dismount, stopping those rotations, trying to aid out the Abathur, but it's not like Teammates sticking together, which is what you traditionally would do. So we don't see even Teammate, at least not yet, forcing those advantages that Cawthon wanted to see out of them here in this draft.
And pressure lanes hard. We'll see what kind of changes come in. You know, maybe trying to steal away the sappers as soon as they're spawned to get the early game lead in the bottom lane of the sapper game. Checking out some of the talents. Not having Agile Dismount, which has been the favorite talent for Goku's Genji and some of the other Genjis. This time, Swift as the wind, so having a Swift strike up more often as long as Genji can hit heroes with that skill shot.
So we got the altars here in 25 seconds, and due to, again, maybe not as dominant a laning phase as we had hoped here for Team 8, it's going to mean nobody has a rotational advantage. It's kind of a free-for-all here. Except for when Genji gets picked by Prismaticism, that's conveniently a 13-second advantage that they are going to not only be able to possibly invade these sappers, but also man up when it comes to these altars.
Yeah, I wondered if Dahaka would even go as far as to straight invade into Team Freedom's altar, but so far Team 8, knowing that a lot of the members were down here in the bottom, stealing the sappers away.
He started the channel early enough, he will be able to get this before Dahaka can make his way over there.
Yeah.
Just anytime I see that slug scooting on out, I get really tense.
You get little anxiety happening. But there it is, Team 8 were able to steal both of the sapper camps, putting on the pressure early in this bottom lane along with the other members there. Even getting first blood and 2 of the altars from the first phase.
Even without maybe this kind of oppressive wave clear focus early game that we see against an Abathur composition traditionally, teammates still managed to find themselves with a rather secure experience advantage. You know, the waves are slightly pushing into Freedom, so it wasn't totally conveyed there. But I mean, it's anywhere from 30 to 50% experience advantage. And that's not a good start, especially considering those front walls still stand, right? Because front walls are, you know, almost in the bank experience. You can always reserve those for later. You can't make up for the minion wave that just was lost.
Yeah, they're also a slight safety measure, of course, for an Abath or two. Glowering takes some damage. Just trading blows so far in this early game between teams, except for the one kill. Not been a very explosive early game for either of these teams on Towers of Doom. Just Teammate trying to amass more and more of a lead. Team Freedom trying to slow that down as they can, looking for any picks, any rotational picks from Teammate, going back and forth between mid and bot.
And one thing from more of the, you know, the player mentality perspective that I do want to highlight that we may see throughout all of today's, we talked about the slow play and Freedom's drafts capitalizing on that, but also because these series matter so much, I naturally think that Team 8 will play more defensive, more slow, less, you know, pressure oriented. And it's already shown a little bit in the early game. It could quickly change that. Maybe they just didn't agree with our analysis of the laning phase. But if it continues to show, I might have a different perspective on whether or not, you know, Dansky and all the Nazebos coming out of Team Freedom, whether or not they're going to have success here even in day 2 of playoffs.
One difference, though, is that Team Freedom did lose someone in the laning phase. The idea for this type of play is that we play safe, we don't get picked. They did lose one pick. So for Team Freedom, to keep that mentality going, they need to make sure they don't lose anybody now. Team Freedom's Zugrug wanted to stop Butts from picking up this altar, but Genji is here, can throw in a Shuriken too. Teammate doing their best to zone all the members away, but if Dansky can get into position, throw out some spiders, he will stop this yet again.
Which should allow for Insomnia on the Genji to get one more rotation if he D's in.
Yeah, the setup here has been awesome from Team Freedom to delay for a long time.
Genji's debatably one of the best delayers too. You can even build more specifically. He didn't build to delay, but he could even. And so they have, now we see one more rotation because he can just jump over the wall, throw out a Q, and then dash away. Nice zoning route for a moment. Zugrug's got a lot of damage.
Yeah, he's taken a lot of damage so far, but Collusion's there. But yeah, Insomnia could have taken double jump. Nice drag for Prismaticism, justing there with a follow-up kill.
And they end up getting the kill onto Nazebo. It's going to allow a Buds to start off the channel. Teammate zone off the members of Freedom. There's 4 more shots going into the core of Team Freedom, now setting it down to 28 HP.
And importantly, there was a lot of soaking, still focused for Team 8, which means they're still maintaining that experience advantage.
Freedom here has to take a minute, collect themselves, figure out how to stop what they've experienced in the first 5 minutes of this game. Because again, it's not like this is a 10 hits in Freedom's composition suddenly comes online. This is a continuous trend of what we expect out of these compositions. So they need to find a moment, figure out what is that picks onto the solo. We've seen very few emphasis onto Prismaticism itself. It's just going to be key that they find what that is. And I think it's going to take a bit of thought more than it is just the feel here for this group.
Loving the love for our third guy.
Our third guy.
Thanks for letting us know. I'm sorry I missed who tweeted that. I think it was Nisha. Make sure you let us know what you're thinking of these games throughout the series using the hashtag HGC on Twitter. This is a tense one. The winner of this goes on to face Gale Force Esports for a spot with Tempo Storm at the mid-season brawl. Representing North America, it's a big deal. It would be such a huge accomplishment, a huge upset for Team Freedom, but Team 8, they've already been there once. Glaurung's been there many times. He wants that taste again.
Yeah, it would be absolutely unheard of for a team as young as Freedom. Nice Stormbolt, follow-up zombie wall there. Yoda's in not a great place, but it wasn't a bad one. Just dropped the expulsion zone. He's able to buy a bit of time. Will the bell tower fall, though? Freedom without 10. They have no confidence to move up, and they will end up getting this bell tower. Team 8 now level 11 before heroics are even picked up.
Prismat's just going to burrow away, using Brush Stalker, not having to use any of his extra health bars there, which is a nice win that he could get out, especially in time to get some regrowth, start healing up for these next 2 altar phases. Team 8, if they can pick these up, extra shots, thanks to that bottom pressure that has been consistent from them throughout this game.
So with the 2 altars, what is the plan? Freedom obviously putting focus up on the top. Team 8, Dahaka's already started the channel on bottom. Beautiful delay here for Team 8, but the double Genji onto Buds. They're trying to apply that pressure, but he's got little to none. There goes the Genji ult. Dragon Blade going in. Nice Sanctification going to be dropped. The drag ends up landing onto Genji. Insomnia is already down, and Nasmus with the clone not getting its reset.
That is such incredible synergy from Team 8 to have the Sanctification just in time to try to negate that Dragon Blade as they could once people started to get low. Stormbolt hit, but Team Freedom in the end did get a pick onto Haka. The health bar is starting to get low. Once Team 8 gets to 13, they'll have Ice Block for Malfurion, so that will help with some of the issues that they had in that last fight with Buds coming under heavy fire from the double Genji.
I just have absolutely no idea how Prismaticism is hitting these drags. We have mobility after the E's hit. Oh, nice Stormbolt over the wall. Beautiful cleanse coming out from Buds, but Glong falls pretty low. The Spiders don't have the damage. Bell Tower converted back, but Genji's level 1. He has movement speed after he dashes in. He's got his passive to be able to leap around, and still, that's the second time we've seen a massively mobile Genji get dragged by Prismaticism there. I just can't tell, does Prismaticism just doesn't miss drags? Like, what's going on? It's impressive. It's back to back.
Maybe he's waiting to use that after he sees a certain sign.
It could
We'll have
be.
to watch. But yeah, he does get that movement speed at 1. I called it the cooldown reduction, but that's at 13. See if he picks that up once they get to 13. Teammates almost there though. Once they get that, they get their Ice Block.
We've got these sappers. They're escorting here on bottom. 13.
They want to keep this up in the bottom lane.
Yeah, they need a bit more poke. Those sappers alone don't get that bell tower. So do they all in before the 13 spike? And do we see Freedom rebuttal back? I have a fear that Freedom's going to kind of hang out here and just slowly get whittled down. Nice. The rotation from Genji. Stormbolt does land only onto Tyrael, not the best target.
Expulsion Zone not zoning people away, but it does at least make sure it doesn't separate Team Freedom, but does give the team time to back off until Team 8 could get their 13, which are now coming online.
Bell tower, 25 seconds away. At least Freedom will find their 13 Talontier. We'll have the same Talontier fight. It's just going to be, can this double Genji somehow get enough damage applied to the backline, especially Mouth? Not only does he have Sanctification, but now he has gotten himself an Ice Block. He's got the Zarya shields. They've got anything and everything. Greymane is legitimately the only realistic target, and that is not a good thing to say.
He also took Unfettered Assault, so he has more lunge range once he is in Worgen form. So if he goes into that, doesn't find it favorable for him, he can back out a lot easier to the rest of his team.
First interrupt. Nasmus has already dropped the clone, though, onto the Genji, applying a bit of pressure. But Insomnia there with Justing. The skirmish is going to be real. Zugrug has to Dwarf Toss out. Sanctification drop. Justing so very low, but he Qs right out.
Yeah, Cursed Bullet did a lot to Zugrug, but so far in the Warrior battle, it's Justing who is far lower, trying to use all of his movement speed that he can to his advantage, and did heal up with the well there.
Bud starting the channel. Glorong just throwing out the threat. Expulsion Zone on top of it. Not necessarily needed. More shots going to the core now of Freedom, but teammate's not done. Forcing the Ice Block. Dansky makes it out, but barely. Nice dodge of the root.
So this should be time that Team 8 can finally push down this bell tower. It is lower, they got the Altar 2, they're ahead in core health significantly over Team Freedom. And that was what Cawthon cautioned about, is even if Team Freedom get to the late game, how much damage do they take on their core? Is it simply irrecoverable from Team 8?
It's just about at that breaking point. You know, we're at the part of the exponential curve that you just regret that you broke past. Can Freedom hold off? Or will they be successful here? This fight's going to mean a lot, Gilly.
Yeah, Dehaka hasn't brush talked in just yet. He is only starting to do so. Yoda stays alive.
Bud's a zoom. He didn't get the Twilight Dream. He moved up. Now he's got enough mana to be able to get it off. Does he go up for it? He tries. Nice damage. Justing over the wall. It's just getting body blocked. Twilight Dream ends up dropping, but that is a 1-for-1 trade. Tyrael for the Nazebo.
Yeah, Sanctification wasn't quite off cooldown yet. Dragon Blade being used just to give the mobility for Insomnia to leave, but Prismaticism has come in for the flank. Does he hit the drag to kill him? No. Nice. Cyber agility in time. Genji makes it out.
So very close here, but teammates still got themselves pressure through these camps up on bottom. They've got that bell tower into their favor, and they're still half a level ahead. It'll be ridiculous if Freedom can even stop these sappers whatsoever. 2 already make it in. Only 1 will be deterred, and now we've got ourselves a triple altar phase as 16 is being closed in on by Team 8.
It's just about the best situation you could want for Teammate. They have a global for this. At least Team Freedom have taken back the bottom bell tower. But it's do or die for Team Freedom. They have a pushing Abathur, by the way. I wondered if they would go for Soma Transference at 13, having gotten Pressurized Glands, and then even Envenom Spikes, but instead just fully trying to utilize Abathur's constant lane presence to soak and push.
If they're going to do that, we absolutely need a 16 talents here picked up before Abathur clone comes out. If they're going for the push, because that is a lot of push going to be lost. Collusion takes a lot of damage. Abathur's going to start the top right channel. Genji skirmishing with the Haka in that 1v1 in the upper left, but Zugrug eats a Cursed Bullet. Gets a heal. He's going to be fine as he's not done. He's just man-moding here as he dwarf tosses in 3 versus 4 to Team 8.
Oh, and Dahaka went down. Genji and the Abathur hat were able to secure that kill, so this is even more important. Sanctification, but a lot of people stuck. Twilight Dream obliterating Team Freedom as 2 fall. One was just the clone though, but another kill for Team 8 will be enough to finally get this altar.
So the fight was won here by Team 8, but Freedom did a good job there. We didn't get to necessarily see it, but they got the pick up on top. They've got themselves 8 of those shots. So they have to feel comfortable here that for the first time, not only are they even in experience when it's going to begin to matter, but they've had a moment where they've been successful. They got themselves a pick. They haven't been controlled by Team 8.
And they've also made it through all of the triple altar phases. So now the most they have to deal with is a double. And from that too, they can have a better handle on the rotations between those to allow Abathur to use his Locust now that he has gotten Locust Brood.
So let's take kind of a step back. Oh man, please don't get caught here, Insomnia. Got risky for a moment, even baited an expulsion zone, short cooldown, but it's still, you know, it's nice to be able to get things like that. These sappers pressured out. They should be able to stop it here. Freedom's got a zombie wall, they've got a lot of damage.
Yeah, Justin used the Holy Ground there on top of the sappers too, but still, even with zombie wall and all the damage that Dansky can do to these, no sappers escorted in for some free shots.
But, okay, so again, on that idea of stepping back, we're yet to see Freedom ever actually take a 5-on-5 and be successful, right? Even in that one moment, we have to consider the fact that that was a 2 versus 1. Dahaka versus a Genji Abathur, you know, clone or not, it doesn't really matter. As long as you've got your hat with your Genji, it makes you that much more lethal. So it's still, there was a breath of fresh air. I feel like, again, it's one of those kind of false positives. Is that truly the breaking point? The 16 was what was needed with this composition. And I'll just leave it as I'm not sold, at least not yet.
Well, if somehow Insomnia can't get this pick on Prismaticism, which is very unlikely, they are going to have to start taking those fights. The next altar phase is activating in 10 seconds, and they're both up in the top. Teammate has yet to make that rotation fully. Zugrug's watching for that, sees it, slows it down.
Oh, nice.
This slowing has been fantastic from Zugrug.
Yeah, he's going to make it happen, too. Justin, no delay. That is a Insomnia channel as he dashes out there. Man.
He was like just hovering over the E button. Okay, okay, here we go, you go.
Man, that was very well done. And, you know, for how many homing drags it feels like we've experienced this game, the ones that have mattered on the bottom wall and on that shot itself. Very well done here by Insomnia. Invade sniffed out Freedom. So, you know, comes in to say what's up, but the material over the wall is enough to be like, not a fight we're going to want here.
So Teammate has been able to consistently keep a hold of this bottom lane, but they can't. Now the drag hits, Roots are there too. Insomnia is gone for 54 seconds. As I was saying, Teammate has had a lot of focus on the bottom lane, but they haven't been able to escort sappers in. The best they can do is limit the shots that Freedom gets from altars, while also getting some more shots for the altars that they achieve. So now they're changing their strategy up. They're trying to get the rest of the bell towers and continue to have this great focus on those so that Abathur can do less versus them as they get into the late game.
4 more shots onto Freedom. They're set down to 9. There's a 10 deficit. There is one key thing in this game that I would have loved to see out of Freedom that I think could have helped them a lot, and it's a lot of it is where we see this Abathur pressure. It's always been top this entire game, and we know a lot of teams 4-man the bottom half of the map, whereas Dahaka will side soak all up on top, and Dahaka can rid of the Abathur pressure very well. But if we had seen maybe a mix-up here from Freedom and put that Abathur on bottom, keep that pressure there, then
it makes the Dahaka not incentivized to move to the bottom lane. It could add up to where they would be successful in their 4-man eventually, and then use the hat to try and deter the problem that would be the Dahaka eventually there in the top lane.
Yeah, the problem is that so early on in this game, they lost a pick that enabled Team 8 to steal both of the Sapper camps to control this bell tower for so long of the game. So they would have had to have Abathur either sitting back here, just slowly trying to push down their own bell tower, which just doesn't feel good, right?
No,
you want to be pushing your opponent's bell towers. So it's a symptom of a problem that started so far, or so early in this game.
Yeah, you're very correct in that. It started as early as it felt like level 1. It's just the entire time that top hasn't even been converted. You know, there's been almost no pressure has that bell tower ever been low, to the point where it's like, I just want to see you pressure anywhere. You're a split push Abathur build, man. We've got the 13, we've got the 16. You need something. Either way, the Dragon Blade was forced out here, as we've got ourselves the game-ending altars up if both go over, but conveniently those 3 denied. It's not the game, at least not yet here. Freedom's got an opportunity, but they're down a clone and a Dragon Blade for this fight.
Teammate willing to be patient, knowing that they can still trade these and be massively in the lead, thanks to not only their great early game, but the fact that they have been solidly in control of this bottom bell tower for Team Freedom. So once again, they go back to the Sapper game, trying to fend off Team Freedom from taking back this bell tower before those Sappers are achieved. Drag, Twilight Dream from the Bolt, Buds takes out Murden before he can even Avatar.
Very well done, and even getting Karazim to make sure no palm to be able to save that Muradin. Sappers are way out. They've still got the zombie wall, which is a pretty effective tool, but I don't know if they have enough damage out there yet. They're even going to drop the Garg. Holy Ground was an attempt. 2 Sappers still up. They make their way in. 2 health remain for the core of Team Freedom. Kills are still 9-3 in favor of Team 8.
Wondering if Dahaka goes up to the top. Abathur has finally started to put the herd onto that top lane. He's bringing down the bell tower, but Dahaka staying with the rest of the team. They know if they can escort 2 of these shots in again, this will be game.
They're going for it. All right, so the main way, oh man, Genji's actually gonna try and backdoor these Sappers. Oh, I like it. It's risk, as we can tell.
Okay.
Oh, the drag ends up landing.
Curse Bullet used his Dragon Blade.
He survives. 3 Sappers still pushing on bottom. This could be game, keep in mind. I was gonna say I would like the, Zombie Wall 1 from Clone, the Palm, and then Zombie Wall 2 as a deterrent, but already the Clone's down. We've got Zombie Wall 1 on cycle. Zombie Wall 2 is going to be attempted. Prismat takes a lot of damage, but there is the Sanctification. Collusion is already dead. There is going to be the Garg. No Sappers, but with 1 pick, I don't think it's going to matter as these altars spawn.
Well, Zugrug's going to do what he did before and try to slow down the rotations from Team 8, but Dahaka has already made it out. Genji moving over to try to channel that altar on Team 8's safe side. And then they can fight it out over the other one, but Prismaticism and Glaurung have already shown up. This looks to be the end of the game.
You can get 1 interrupt there. There's the drag, Curse Bullet, Yoda with a lot of DPS. Channel number 2 is online. Zugrug goes over the wall. Yoda actually taking a bit of damage, but keep in mind, this is just Dansky and Zugrug here. No Abby, nothing else. Twilight Dream, the drag, and that is it. GG, game number 1. To Team 8.
Team 8 with impeccable control over the bottom lane, getting an early pick that made so much happen for them in that game, keeping Team Freedom at bay. Koth and Luck, what did you think of that game?
Nailed it.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear yourself?
I'm not on.
There we go.
I'm on. Went about as expected. I will give it to Freedom. They did a great job for about 2 minutes between level 16 and 18. They managed to capture 4 out of 5 altars, which was the only thing even keeping them in the game minutely. It was a combination of some good play getting the pick onto Dahaka and a little bit of a misplay giving up 2 for free on that level 18 spawn without contesting them. I think the story of the game also has to be how many licks were landed by Prismat onto a Genji. What was it, like 5 or 6 that game? Granted, he does have the speed shield from Zarya, but that was a huge point in that game, the number of drags he was able to land on a very, very mobile hero, and that definitely set Freedom back a lot.
Do you think that this was draft related, a draft problem for Team Freedom, or was it way more just a straight outplay for Team 8?
I don't blame Freedom for this draft. It has to be expected when you go with such a late game comp like this that you do get punished and fall behind in shots the way they did. However, with Freedom, nobody's punished them yet for playing the style they did. So I think it makes sense for them to come out and try the same thing in game 1 and see if they can get away with it. Teammates just showing that they're not going to allow them to stay even in the early mid game when they play these strats, and so they took the win.
All right, Dread, any changes you think we'll see in the next game from Team Freedom?
No Nazebo. And if so, it'll be with like